Hey guys, so in the previous video, I've set up a blur auto bidding bot that is passively earning me blur points by bidding on a collection while undercutting the top bid by 0.01. So that undercutting offers me some protection, but what happens if one of my bids gets accepted? What I do now is I will set up two additional automations. One of them will watch my wallet and trigger if one of my bids were filled. And the second automation will auto list the token on the collection floor on both Blur and OpenSea. And it will keep the token pegged to floor even if the floor drops. OpenSea is optional really. That will decrease my loyalty, but I just popped that in there so you can see that we can create multi-marketplace listings from a single automation. This way, this system is completely autonomous. It bids on the collection, and then in case one of my bids gets accepted, it lists the token on floor. I've even powered it up with a floor crash alert that notifies me if the floor crashed 20% below my purchase price. So that way I can have a look at what's going on. Right, so let's have a look at what it looks like set up. We have the 3 steps. Step number 1 is when we bid. I'm using the Seekers collection, which is this collection here on Blur. You can see the floor is at 0.06. And then this automation is bidding automatically on Seekers. As we can see here, I've limited it at 1 bid at a time at a bid amount of 0.05. As you can see, the bid ceiling is at 0.06. So I'm bidding at 1 ETH. I'm undercutting with 0.01 ETH. And then for the second automation is if I purchase a Seeker. So if one of my bids gets accepted, then I will go ahead and automatically list it near the floor on both Blur and OpenSea. Obviously, listing on OpenSea will lower my loyalty score, as you can see here, but you can take that out. I just want to showcase that you can list on any marketplace simultaneously with price adjusted rates on each. Obviously, these automations run for the Seekers collection specifically, that the template can be used to repurpose the whole thing onto other collections that you'd like to bid on. I already have all 3 running. I've created it 2 hours ago, so it's done roughly 5 bids so far. I have actually purchased a Seeker from Blur myself, just so I can trigger my auto lister. As you can see, I bought this Seeker, and now this automation will keep this token pegged to the floor until it's sold, right? If I happen to buy more Seekers, then I will see more auto listers automations pop up here automatically, and it will run all on autopilot, so I don't have to look at it at all. It will it will bid on tokens, and if any bids gets filled, it will sell it. So I have the 3 templates for the 3 automations. That way I can repurpose the whole thing for different collections that I want to bid on. But just to make it super simple and make the setup one click for myself and for you guys as well, I've packaged it up into one master template that contains basically everything, right? So this is how it works. So this is my master template, and the only thing I have to do is I create a automation from this big template. I put in a name which could be Blur Bidder Boss Lister, and I can repurpose this for a different collection, let's say the piece. I enable it in creation, and now I start adding my variables, which are the details basically of the collection. So I need the collection name, which will be Dippies. I need the collection ID, which is this. It's basically the collection address. I add my wallet. The automation will run from this wallet. I add my absolute max bid that I'm willing to bid on the collection. Right now, top bid is 0.57. This doesn't include Blur, but let's check on Blur real quick. That's 0.05. Look at that, that's quite thin. I might want to undercut by 2 there. let's put the max bid at 0.07. And I want to undercut the top bid by 2 in this case, because 1 is quite risky. That's quite thin. My stop loss multiplier, what this does is it will alert me if the floor crashes 20% below my purchase price. So if I'm bidding, right, and then a bid gets filled, and then the automation starts to list it, and if the listing automation notices that, hey, the floor has crashed 20% my purchase price, then I will get an alert on my phone that I have to pay attention here because something's not right. I just list there, and here is my listing markup, and this determines the price point relative to the floor where I will list. I could put in 1.1 to list 10% above floor, so that would be floor times 1.1. But I want to get rid of the tokens quickly, and I would just add a list markup of 1, which is nothing. As soon as I create the automation, I go to automations, and I will see that I have everything already set up. The bids are probably already coming in on DPs. I can see this is the master automation that I created using the template. And what this did is it basically created the other 2 automations. And as you can see, it ran once, then it turns itself off. I can go ahead and delete this. I don't need this anymore. And it created the step 1 and step 2. So bid on DPs and then the buy trigger. For the seekers one, it has been running for 2 hours now. And I've actually bought a seeker. So my Blurbot step 2 automatically created the Blurbot step 3 auto lister, which will keep listing my seeker 23361 at floor until it's sold. And the same will happen here, but this hasn't bought any DPs yet, so it hasn't created the auto lister yet. So if I go on my bidding bot for DPs, I will look at the history. I can see it already bid once. I've set a 15-minute repeat for the bidding, so it will bid every 15 minutes. The bids have an expiration of 15 minutes, so I always have 1 bid active. I can change the number of bids I want to have active by changing the quantity here. This is the bid on blur action, which bids this quantity on my specified collection ID, which is DPs, obviously. And I can see the history, it has success, so it ran once. And if I check on DPs, let's do a refresh. There's my bid, 0.03. I undercut the bid ceiling by 0.2. As you can see, that's the bid ceiling, and I've undercut it by 0.1, 0.2. That's my bid right there. If this bid gets accepted, by the way, it probably won't, then my automation number 2, which is my buy trigger, will create the 3rd automation, which will be the auto lister, which will run until my DP is sold. This system runs completely automatically. It's completely customizable. I've built it without using any code. I just use triggers and automations and only continue if logics to get this done. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of how this thing works. I have the 3 automations that you can see here, which is step 1, step 2, and step 3, which namely bidding, the buy trigger, and the auto list, which are these 3, automation 1, automation 2, and automation 3. And I also have a big wrapping around it, which is a 4th automation, so to say, and its only reason to exist is to automatically create everything I need from 1 click. So I will input my variables into this automation, and that will relay everything into the right places to make it super simple for me. So that's, in fact, 4 automations really. One of them, the first one, just creates the rest. Let's look at their templates. So I have my master template, which basically creates the rest. And I have all the inputs here. Earlier you saw me specifying these variables when I was using the master template to set everything up from one click. I had the collection name, collection ID, wallet, max bid, undercut, blah, blah, blah. Everything is right here. This thing repeats once and creates my bidder automation and will also create my buy trigger automation that is watching out for any purchases I made accidentally and creates the listing automation automatically. All these inputs that I add to my master will be passed on to my bidding automation and also my buy trigger automation. Then if we look at the bidding automation, we'll see some of the same inputs right here. And this automation gets it from the previous one, obviously. And it simply starts the repeat timer. We've seen this before. It checks the blur bid ceiling. It will only continue if the bid ceiling is below our absolute maximum bid. And then it will bid undercutting the bid ceiling by our specified amount. If we go back and check the next step, which is the buy trigger automation, we have the same inputs here. These inputs, this automation simply passes on the inputs from our master automation onto the autolist automation. It has a buy trigger, a simple buy trigger, which is watching when my wallet purchases a token from this collection. And then when that happens, it simply creates the auto listing automation, passing on all the input variables from the previous step onto the listing automation. If we have a look at the listing automation, this is the most interesting part in my opinion. It's also the most complex one. We have all the inputs that were passed on from the buy trigger automation. What we'll do is we will list our token every 15 minutes. First, we will get the token balance of our wallet from our specific collection. We will only continue if our token balance is greater than 0. That way, we don't run the listing automation if we already sold all our NFTs from that collection. Next, we get the collection floor for our collection in case this was Dippies. We also get the blur collection floor. This is done in separate actions because the back end is kind of different, but the collection, the first step gets it from OpenSea and LooksRare and X2Y2, and the second one gets it from Blur. Then we also get the last sale of the token. So this will be our purchase price. Obviously, we're holding the token in our wallet, and the last sale price of the token will be the price we bought it for. And this is useful for our stop loss. So we don't want to list much below our purchase price because it might be down to some floor price manipulation. It might be down to a temporary floor drop, and we don't want to get burned. So if the floor price drops down, we want to get notified of that. And then we have a nice little group here, and we will only continue inside this group if our floor price, and this is for the custom for one action, which is this one. So if our floor price, this one was the OpenSea collection floor, and this is obviously the Blur collection floor. If our OpenSea collection floor price is less than output from custom 8.7 price, which is custom 8.7, this is the one. So if the OpenSea floor is less than our last purchase price, times 0.8. And the 0.8 comes from our input, obviously. And we specify that when setting up this automation. I use 0.8. So what this would translate to is we only continue if the floor drops 20% below our purchase price. And if that happens, we will send a custom notification to my Telegram personally saying that Blur Auto Bidder has an unrealized loss on a token. And I also put in the collection name right here, so I know which collection it's talking about. That's useful if I have a lot of these running. It will show my purchase price, it will show the current floor, and it will also calculate my unrealized loss. And it will give me a quick link on my phone that I can check so I can see what's happening. And I've added my Telegram right here. So this is the stop loss, basically. It's nested in this group, and this group will only execute if the floor price drops 20% below my purchase price, and then I will get a notification. If the floor price does not drop 20% below my purchase price, then I will go ahead and list the token on Blur. I will list from my wallet. I will list the token from that specific collections that comes from the input from the top. And I will list the specific token ID that is coming from my buy trigger. The duration, this one is in seconds, so that's 15 minutes. And my listing price will be the floor on Blur times the markup that I've specified. So I could use 1.1, that would be a 10% markup. In this case, I used 1, so I will list the floor. And I will also list on OpenSea. This is optional. I could remove this if I want to keep loyalty to my maximum, but just to show you how this works, I've added this as well. Slightly different, but does the same. Collection ID, the token I want to list, marketplaces, the wallet, and the listing price with the same markup and 15 minutes validity. And after all this happens, I will get a notification that basically says that a token has been listed, where I bought it, where I listed it at, OpenSea Blur. It has all the input. This message will look real nice once I get it. Unrealized profit, blah blah blah. Quick link to check on Blur to check my listing on Blur. That goes to my Telegram. So that's it, basically. That's the mechanic. I can see for Dippies, my automation already made 2 bids. And for the Seekers collection, it made 13 bids already. I bought 1 token accidentally. Actually, I bought it on purpose just so it triggers my auto lister. And it's trying hard to sell it. It listed it 11 times already. Obviously, this listing is there, so it keeps a relative position to floor constantly. And just to double check my bids on Dippies, I have 1 bid because the first one already expired, and that was replaced with my second bid. I can up the number open if I change it in my automation. So that's it. A one-click automation that I have set up for you, so you don't have to go through the process of setting it up. But if you want to go up over and beyond, you can customize it, you can add stop losses, you can change it any way you want, so you can outsmart the other traders, basically.